Tax reform apparently not the only priority of Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. He reaffirmed his commitment to changing the housing finance system yesterday. Watch.
Housing reform is a priority of mine. The existing system of having the Treasury have a gigantic line to Fannie and Freddie and operating these the way they are, we are determined to change that and not have that continue for the next 4 years.
Mitch Roschelle here this morning from PwC. What do you think about that, Mitch? I mean, he said for a while that he wanted to privatize these companies. What would that look like? How do you see this changing?
It would be a massive initial public offering, that's for sure, of one that we've never seen before. But it really makes sense to have private capital playing a role in the way housing finance works, and it really hasn't been the case. And the government has tried to use those agencies to stimulate the housing market, and it's really done nothing, you know, coming out of the financial crisis to really stimulate the housing market. And maybe private capital would apply a different set of standards and a different set of underwriting principles that would just, you know, be more robust for the housing market.
Because right now, these entities basically create the majority of mortgages in the country. Most 80%.
Most residential mortgages, some way, somehow flow through Freddie and Fannie, correct?
And we've got such a great opportunity to fix this now. While the housing market is so strong, interest rates are low, so that private capital wants somewhere to go that has a slightly higher yield. It would be a really good way to just ease the government out of this thing they probably shouldn't be in anyway, without actually causing a big disruption, or else what will happen is we'll have another crash, and then they'll get out the wrong time.
But it requires the government and bureaucrats giving up control of the housing market, right. And they like that power, quite frankly.
But they haven't really effectively done it through those agencies, ironically. So maybe it doesn't matter. There's other forms of policy that they've used to try to stimulate the housing market. You know, think about those agencies prior to the financial crisis. They were semi-government agencies, and they tried to run like, you know, private enterprise. The fact of the matter is they were overregulated, and they couldn't.
How is housing doing right now? There's a feeling that there's trouble looming. Strong new construction and demand from buyers could be pushing home prices higher at a rate that's really not sustainable. I mean, we know that in some corners of the country, buying a home has become, it's out of reach.
It's out of reach because there's no supply and there is demand. To me, that's not a bubble. If you compare it to the bubble of 10 years ago, that was just sort of stupidity inflating a bubble with underwriting standards and people buying homes that couldn't afford to buy homes. Now people who marginally can afford to buy a home can't buy a home because it's too expensive. To me, that's a totally different dynamic, and I sort of wave off the, maybe I'll eat a hat on this show if there is a housing bubble. But.
Well, I'll be there with you because we had vast oversupply. People were just giving away houses because they didn't have any skin in the game. So it was easy. I make a fee off selling you a house, and then I walk away, and what happens is your problem. But now there is an undersupply, so that is not bubble territory.
And just yeah, go ahead, Meg.
Well, but prices, eventually, people will get so priced out of these markets that eventually prices have to start going down in order for people to buy them. So that would burst the increase in home prices.
But I'd argue, Degan, that happens gradually and in a free market environment. There was nothing free about the market that put 14 to 16 months of supply of new housing on the market, you know, 10 years ago versus the less than 4 months supply we have today. So if you have such a low level of supply, the market has to behave more efficiently.
Well, prices could ease, and it would actually solve the problem instead of being a bubble.
What about the issue that Degan brought up earlier this week, and that is the deal on softwood lumber and these tariffs on Canadian lumber? How is that going to affect the home buyer?
I think that's a big issue. As a matter of fact, I gave Sam, the segment producer, a chart. Lumber prices were going up well before this Canadian fiasco around lumber prices. So that's the biggest material cost in building a home. So lumber costs have been going up steadily.
And the actual wage, and increases,
labor,
labor costs have really hurt the home builders as well.
So if you think that
the Wall Street Journal called it, this lumber tariff is a tax. A housing tax.
It actually is.
New home tax.
Sure it is.
At the worst possible time when cost prices are high.
Yeah.
And you want more supply to come on the market if you're in the market for buying a house.
So it sounds like you don't think new home prices are going down anytime soon. They're going to go up.
New home prices and existing home prices will continue to go up.
All right, we'll take a
Or I'll eat my hat.